don't have any way to reach anybody. I'm okay.
Welcome to the Beauty and Pain podcast. My name is Matt Tardio, and this is my lovely lady, Brittany. Say hi, babe.
Hello.
We decided to start this channel for several reasons. One, I think has to do 110% with domestic violence. I think we both agree on that. That is a main thing. A lot of what women are going through. So we're going to touch a lot on this channel when it comes to that.
Yep, and teaching women how to help protect themselves, feel more confident, be smarter, what to do, what not to do.
Exactly. And to give a little bit of our background, I think you are a managing director of a Fortune 500 company.
Correct.
Right. You're also into music.
Correct.
And you're also a mother.
I am a mother.
Facts. Yeah.
Yes.
For those of you that are unfamiliar with me, I am a retired Green Beret, former law enforcement officer, and currently do a lot of different things. You guys have probably seen me on different podcasts from time to time, Instagram, TikTok, whatever have you. But I get around. Social media wise, not on you. Okay, so on this video, we're going to be going over what actually got us to where we are today. And unfortunately, there wasn't a lot on my part that brought us here, but there was a lot on your part. And it had a lot to do with a previous relationship that you were in and things that happened throughout that.
Yes, if you could call it that, but yes.
Yeah, well, guy you were dating.
Sure, and unfortunately, there is so many women that have similar stories or worse stories for sure. I know of several women personally that have worse stories, and it's one of those things that you can't fully appreciate unless it happens to you. You don't think it ever will happen to you until it does, and then when it does, it just feels surreal.
And I think that's probably, I don't want to say one of the craziest parts of it, but definitely stuff that I saw as a cop to where guys would get arrested for doing this stuff. And not just guys, girls too.
Sure.
But mostly guys, if we're being honest, mostly guys get arrested for this crap. And that they get let off with not even a slap on the wrist for the most part. Not even a slap on the wrist. And what ends up happening is they end up filling out a piece of paper that says, you are not going to do this again. Don't harm this person. And you are literally protected by a sheet of paper.
Yeah, and it quite literally does nothing for you. And I don't think I fully understood how broken the justice system was until going through this. I don't think you probably fully understood that until you were a law enforcement officer and were doing everything you could to put these people behind bars, to little to no avail. I am a mother of boys. So I think of it often about my boys and how I want to raise them, obviously, and how I want them to be and what kind of men I want them to be. But also, on the flip side of that, as much as I am always a champion of women, and you and I have personally got into debates, I think I've been able to maybe shed a little bit of light on certain things to you as a man. But I'm a mother who has kids that wants to protect those kids, and all it takes is a false accusation. So I don't take anything that we're saying here lightly. My number one priority is protecting those kids and their futures. So just to kind of ward off proactively anything from the other side on how we believe. But we also firmly stand for the protection of women and children.
Yeah. Very much cautious about it. And it's not just I also have boys, and it's something that I'm worried about as well is.
And you have a daughter.
Right. I'm worried about all of it, all the way around.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most eye-opening moments for you was the actual legal system itself, because, and I read the police report, in my opinion, they messed up big time.
Yeah.
They messed up big time on a lot of things that he should have got charged for that he didn't. But either way, going into the misdemeanor court for family, what is it in Texas, family violence? Yeah. So going to that misdemeanor court for family violence and just seeing literally the line of people, almost like a...
Getting plea deals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plea deal after plea deal after plea deal. And in some cases, it's acceptable. I think in some cases, plea deals, depending on how it goes,
Sure.
because not all of them are as extreme as your case, or not all of them are extreme as even like the text I got last night.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the guy that got put away for 4 years. Not all of them are that extreme.
Correct.
But it's gotten out of control to about where 90% of the cases now are handled on plea deals.
Sure. And so I guess just to get into my story and what happened to me, this is a person that I found out after the fact, obviously, has done this multiple times, was actually on felony probation, and I had no idea, which is a huge problem. We are all modern people with modern access to internet. We all Google people's names before dates. The fact that that doesn't come up is insanity. He had a felony for assaulting a female that he had dated prior. I have personally met an additional person beyond that that he had assaulted, and have been told about other people that he has assaulted viciously, mind you, not...
Strangulation is in some of these documents,
Yeah.
to be clear.
Yeah. It's bad. And so the fact that I didn't know that, that's problem number one. I met this particular person through a dating app, which, you know, is what it is these days. That's how a lot of people meet, you know, and not just older adults. I mean, this is how, college kids are doing it. I mean, everybody's doing this now. We all try to be smart, right? We're all texting our friends, where are we going? Sending them pictures or their social media platforms, whatever, beforehand. And at first it was what it was, but there was a couple of red flags along the way.
Yeah.
Couple of events that happened, but I found a way to justify it to myself. But all in all, we hadn't even dated a month before the major event happened, which I like to tell for my own sake, because to remind myself that it's not my fault. I didn't have time to even break it off, and for some reason, something I didn't understand before this happened to me, women do tend to blame themselves as if it was our fault that it happened to us. And I'm sure you saw it many times as a cop, and women going back to their abusers, I would guess.
Pretty much every time.
And that's definitely something I didn't understand until it happened to me. It's a weird trauma bond. I don't really know, I guess, the psychology behind it, but it was something that I had to sort through in my mind. Not that I did go back, but it was still something there. So I do want to be clear on that in case somebody else is feeling that, because it also comes with a great deal of shame and guilt along with it. So there was a couple altercations, like I said, leading up to it, and one of them was the night before, and it was the first time he got fully physical with my person, but it wasn't as extreme, and there was a lot of apologies and tears, and I do have a strong personality, so I was this will never happen again, you're never going to treat me like this, and it was, I swear it'll never happen again, and I bought it. I don't know what else to say.
What was it that happened?
It was similar to the big event, which I'll get into, but he got upset, started being very aggressive. I was trying to basically give him space, leave the altercation, and I was moving from one room to another, and then eventually tried to leave. He grabbed me before I could leave my own home. This was at my house, and threw me backwards, and I had a bruise on my leg from that. That was as physical as it got. And then I had locked myself in the room, and that he broke the lock, and that's where there was a hole in my wall from him slamming open the door that Matt had to later fix. So I won't get into all of those details, but I will read the statement that I wrote after it happened so I could remember it, because it's a lot and I'm going to have to edit some of the wording out. But this was on a Saturday. We had plans to meet my friends. It was going to be the first time he was going to meet my friends for dinner. And he had proposed a certain social club that he was a part of. We had other plans. He said that it was a cool place. I think he was trying to impress them. I thought it was cool, so we agreed. I had told him multiple times leading up to that it was really important to me that we were on time. I know my friends, they were a couple of them for sure were going to be early, and I really didn't want them sitting out there because, like I said, it was a social club. It's a private club. They couldn't get in. Before the dinner, we were at his high-rise apartment, and it started getting closer and closer. I started asking, really nicely, we're still very new, like, can you please start getting ready? I really want to be on time. And this kind of continued for a while. And I started to get upset because I'd been telling him all day that it was important to me. And I got annoyed. And I said, you promised me that you weren't going to be like this. And then he got very angry, excessively angry. He was yelling at me, making threats of breaking up, not going. Then we were going to go. Then we could go, but he's not going to go. Then we can't go. I mean, it was all over the place. And then he started driving from where he was to where we were going. I mean, it was honestly walkable, but we drove anyways. And he was angry and started driving extremely erratically, flooring the glass, slamming on the brakes. It was scary. I think it was an intimidation tactic to get me to, I don't know, just go with whatever he wanted. I kind of just kept ignoring it, and still in a different mindset of like, I'm not going to put up with this crap. But I did just want to get through the night, not make a big scene in front of my friends and have a nice, fun night out. And once we got inside, he demanded I apologized, and I did. I just wanted to have a good night, and I thought we were okay. I kept trying to make sure I was engaging with him, but it was very bizarre behavior the rest of that night. And it just started getting worse and worse to the point where he was hitting on the waitress in front of me. He told one of my friends that I was being a, quote, little bitch. And it was all just very, very odd behavior. And I was honestly at the point where I was not wanting to deal with it. I just literally did not want to deal with it. So after that, we decided to go to a little bar that was close by. And his behavior was more bizarre. And even looking at pictures, it was very, very bizarre. I can't even explain. It was like a different person in the pictures, like glassy-eyed, just checked into a different person. We got an Uber around a little after midnight. I live close. We came to my house, and it was pretty immediate that he started getting aggressive and fighting. And it was the same thing, like I said, from the night before, where I was basically kept trying to remove myself from the situation. So I would leave the kitchen and try to go to my room, and it just made it worse and worse, but it had built a lot faster, and it got very violent pretty quickly. One of the first things that happened, because I do have a strong personality, was I'm not going to try to back down, and I was just, you're not going to talk to me like that, and I'm going to leave. And he grabbed my face, like from here, and slammed my head and my whole body back into my bed. And when he did that, he cut his finger on my, whatever that pointy tooth is called.
Canine?
Yeah. And I mean, it was a decent little cut for what it was, but so he had a lot of blood, and then that just caused him to, he would flick it on me, his blood, for some reason, and it was a lot of like throwing me on the ground, and then he would spit on me. It all came around to the fact that he did not like the fact that I had previously dated a black guy. And I have a smart mouth, so I told him that was small dick energy. Which it is. And he called me all the names that you could probably imagine around that, on top of being a whore and a bitch and a slut. And it started to get to the point where I didn't have a smart mouth anymore. I was very scared. He made me sit on the couch in my kids' playroom and physically sat me there and was like telling me that we're gonna be done. Is that what I want? And I just was, a matter of fact, sitting forward and said yes. And that's when he backhanded me pretty in the face, but like off the couch. It took me off the couch, and I personally never been hit in the face before, and it was very alarming for me. And I kept trying to call for help. He had broken my phone, and then I have an Alexa in the kitchen, and he tore that out of the wall. And then I remembered that my kids have Alexas back in their room, so I ran back there and I tried to quietly call their dad for help. And he found me and ripped the Alexa out of the wall, basically threw me down, and was kicking me in the chest. That was the biggest injury I had, I guess. And then I basically crawled into the other room and tried to do the same thing. And at some point I had even gotten on my work laptop in my office and tried to like message my brother for help, who lives nowhere here. It was desperation. I tried to leave like the night before. It was all the same things. It was literally held hostage in my house. And then he kept telling me how grateful I was and how much money he had spent on that dinner with my friends, which nobody had asked him to pay for everybody, but I was desperate. And he told me that it was $5,000. I highly doubt that it was. And I was pleading with him to just leave. I'll pay you $5,000. I'll pay you for the dinner. Just leave. And I'm trying to get on my phone. My phone's not working. I'm trying to get online. Then on my work laptop, and then he sees the message I sent to my brother, and he knocks my entire desk over, smears blood everywhere. There's lots of pictures of all of this. And there's a lot more details to the story and rabbit holes I could go down into it, but it was a nightmare. And 2 days later, I got an email from another victim's brother, telling me all sorts of crazy things and how he was on felony probation and has done this to all these other girls and among other shady dealings. And yet he's still out and free. And the last victim, from what I've seen and read, it was way worse than mine even. But it was extremely traumatic for me. Not feeling like I could escape, not feeling completely helpless. I was ashamed that I honestly didn't try to fight back at all. I think given where I was skill level and my knowledge, that was probably the smartest thing I could have done. I think anything else would have made it worse. But I could have been more armed and more educated on how to handle those situations and probably could have handled it better.
It's great, like you just didn't know.
Right. I didn't. And I had a firearm in my home. And after he finally left, I did go get it. And by the time the cops came to the house, I actually answered the door with the firearm that I didn't know how to use at the time, which was very intimidating.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and it wasn't like it was a short situation either, like it lasted a while.
Over 3 hours.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's definitely a paraphrase version that you threw out.
Yes, very much so.
And that's the whole reason why we are here.
Mm-hmm.
No kidding. Oddly enough, it sparked how we met, which it's hard to... I have so many mixed emotions on it.
Sure.
Like, so many. Because if I could take all of that away so that you wouldn't have to go through it, I would.
Sure.
But it also means I'd never met you.
Well, and that's just not how life works, right?
It's not.
And I think I hate the word victim so much, but I think it's one of the very fair situations to say I was the victim in this situation, but that doesn't mean I have to be a victim, and I can heal properly. I don't think just trying to boss up right away is the right move. I think anybody that has gone through this needs to go to therapy. I think it's imperative. But I think there's always silver linings. We met, I learned a ton. I still have lots to learn, and I can. Mm-hmm. And we have the ability to do something about it, to help people.
Exactly. And hopefully by doing this, and like even you just coming out and sharing your story, which in itself, like taking the step to like go forward and talk to the police is huge. Just to file the report, make sure everything's documented. That in itself, like I have so much respect for you. That in itself is huge.
Yeah.
And then to see things through the way you did is above and beyond. Seeking out and finding and talking to the other like ladies as well, above and beyond. And now taking another step and being like, I'm not going to let this be a defining moment in my life that keeps me down. I'm going to use it to help other people out. And I'm going to enlist the help of my man, and we're going to change things for the better.
Yeah, and I don't know, I really do feel like we can help. I feel like you can help educate women on better things to do in a very specific way. That's what I really liked about learning from you, because it was all very practical, I guess, like actual what would you do and how to handle certain situations. And that's only one part of this problem. The other part is the justice system. And I don't know how we tackle that, but I know that being quiet about it doesn't help.
I would love to tell you that every situation is different, and I'm sure there's some ones that have been prosecuted correctly. But it's like that phone call, or not the phone call, it's like that message I got last night. It's been 2 years since all that paperwork got filed.
Right.
Over 2 years since all that paperwork got filed. And just now that dude's seeing jail time for it.
Right. And the problem with
4 years. That's...
And so that took 2 years of his victims being in fear. Because that's a reality. Because you can get a protective order, you can get a restraining order, but I know in my case, when that protective order was being violated and I called, nothing happened. Literally nothing. I had to wait unless he showed up at my house and was hurting me again.
Right. And that's exactly how I met that particular individual, is because there was a protective order in the system, and he was at said person's house.
Right.
And violating it. But even then, he was released within a couple days on that one. And I had to pick him up and arrest him again and put him back in, and then make sure that everything was documented correctly and that we stayed on him to keep him where he belonged.
Yeah. My story, this person has not spent a night in jail.
And that's bullshit.
And I am not the only one. So it's insanity.
Insanity.
It's insanity. And
I think that's all stuff we'll get into it. Like we
Yeah.
100% will.
yeah.
100%.
for sure.
Future videos, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into how we can help women and men out.
Yeah.
Like keeping themselves safe and keeping their kids safe, keeping family members, loved ones, everybody safe.
And children.
Children especially. We
Yeah,
can do if you
anybody
want
that
it.
feels, yeah, it's
But mostly, how do you avoid that? Like, how do you just stay out of it? And sometimes it's unavoidable.
sometimes it is unavoidable, and you shouldn't feel shame if you've been in that situation,
Right.
because it's not your fault. It wasn't my fault. Not that I haven't made stupid choices in my lifetime, but
Like, get in a relationship with me. But
this one wasn't my fault. And I think that's really important too. And I know there's a lot of people that live in fear, and I don't think that's a way to live at all for anybody, but I also understand it. So I think being proactive in your approach to help you be more confident so you don't live in fear brings a new level to quality of life in general.
thank you guys for watching the 5 to 10 or 20 or 50, 100, 500,000. I don't know how many people are going to watch our first video, but thank you guys for watching that. We greatly appreciate you.
Yep.
And we look forward to working with y'all to make the world a better place. And special thanks to you for doing everything you've done and not letting it rest, because it matters.
Agreed.